Well, Kevin, first of all, thank you for joining us, and for those who are watching this for the first time, Kevin Capewell from Rawlco Radio is joining us today to talk about our year in review, and here we are, right in the jewel of Regina itself.
Absolutely, Collin. Well, thanks for having me, and this is an absolutely magnificent facility, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about this place?
Well, sure. We are at the iconic Evraz Place and the home of Mosaic Stadium, where the Riders do play. But we've also had the NHL Heritage Classic here. We've had Garth Brooks over the summer, hosted a number of other events here. So we've really had some really cool world-class events.
Absolutely. Well, now, what does a facility like this mean to you and your organization?
Well, you know, sometimes you mention Saskatchewan to people from outside of the province, and often they're thinking of they don't necessarily think of world class. Sometimes they're thinking of, well, you know, I see my dog running for days, you know, and those kinds of comments. But you know, despite the fact that we've got cold winters, we got a little bit of snow. Yes, you can see a far away places from the top of buildings. You know, the fact is that our people are really special, and terms like grit, compassionate, people who are really resourceful and innovative, passionate. That's much more reflective, I think, of what Saskatchewan really is. And so when we have these conversations about Saskatchewan, those are the things that come top of mind for a lot of people.
Well, absolutely, and I think you've spent a lot of time talking about leadership. And so when you're talking about leadership, the word grit and resilience and perseverance and words like that come up quite a bit. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about that? Sure.
Like, you know, some of these things you're just talking about are characteristics that differentiate to really strong leadership qualities. And, you know, you talk about grit. People with grit tend to they're able to do things under exceptionally difficult circumstances over sustained periods of time. And, you know, Saskatchewan's quite well known for that. So maybe it's the cold that caused us to be this way. Perhaps our history. You know, we've got a very pioneering history. We have First Nations that have lived here under extreme weather circumstances. And, you know, the fact is that that develops a certain resiliency that people have, and so they're able to take on challenges and not be afraid to work through all of them. And, you know, when we talk about things in terms of safety, it's really the resiliency it's easy to give up. And we talk about the resiliency to not give up when they're trying to implement a new policy or trying to change culture in their businesses or in their very own homes.
Well, that's pretty interesting. So, you know, within that context, you know, I think a big part of, you know, kind of that can-do, get-it-done attitude is also an air of resourcefulness and how that weaves its way into leadership as well.
Right. Well, you know, again, you know, one of the things that Saskatchewan people have been known is being very creative and resourceful. And you know, effective leaders are extremely resourceful. They're quick learners, they're collaborators, they leaders who see a problem, recognize a problem, but also see opportunities to work with others to bring solutions. Resourcefulness is sometimes it's a little bit of being a MacGyver in some cases, where you're looking at the things around you and able to see things that perhaps are opportunities that perhaps other people are not able to see. And that takes, yes, it's a talent, but it's also a skill that can be developed. Whether it be people who are working on a work site together, they run into a problem, and there's always a leader in the group who says, you know, I think we could figure out a way to do this, and perhaps a safer way to do this. Perhaps we can get this done with having less risk put into the picture. And it's that kind of skill set, that kind of talent that there's a lot of leaders that have that. Not everybody sees it that way, or not everybody can do that. But the fact is that those that can really separate good from the great. great. And so resourcefulness is a terrific leadership quality that we like to talk about at the SCSA. Encourage people to be resourceful, whether it be gathering information or to integrate those ideas into their planning, to reach out to others who may have strengths in areas that they have weaknesses, and to leverage that. And that's a critical skill and talent.
Well, I agree completely. And, obviously this isn't just a checklist of effective leadership. There's a whole lot in that recipe that makes leadership incredibly effective. But, another interesting component that I know you talk a lot about is innovation. And, that a lot of times we think innovation is some cataclysmic, monumental change where something amazing has changed and life will never be the same as we know it.
Right.
But it's not necessarily that big. It might just be some subtle, smaller type of innovations that are really impactful.
Oh, for sure. Sometimes we think of it as this big aha moment or lightning strikes, and all of a sudden we've got this new wisdom and insight and stuff. And it is very rarely the case.
Right.
Innovations are often really small and typically unnoticed improvements that can happen all the time. Sometimes it's a combination of things that are brought together that presently exist in forms that are effective by themselves, but when you bring them together, they become really, really powerful. Oftentimes, when we talk about innovation and we think about it, innovation will often be thought of as something that is creative, that creativity leads to innovation, and in part that's true. But there's also an element of risk-taking that's in there. And from a business perspective, a person that's able to be creative in spite of the fact that they may risk losing something by applying this new idea. For example, companies will be they're forced to innovate in order to stay relevant. If you don't innovate, eventually you'll be left behind. That kind of risk-taking is absolutely necessary for success to occur. And we're not talking about taking undue risks necessarily, but it is maybe risk to your reputation, maybe risk to your ego. And in a company, an organization of more than one person, you've got to be creating an environment as a leader where people feel that they can take risks. And otherwise, we're just having robots running around doing stuff, and they're not willing or able to be innovative. Particularly when we talk about exceptional leadership, it has an aspect to it where you can't really afford to just think of just the impact on your company and yourself. The biggest innovations impact whole populations, and they change lifestyles for people in very large numbers. And whether it be something from a medical perspective, or a piece of technology, or a technique in building a wonderful facility and introducing ideas to others that they can then go and build even further. And so there's a critical element to innovation where somebody just takes ownership and says, we need to do this. It's not just good for us, but it's good for our community or our society.
Well, these are things that, again, that you have been talking about for some time, and how we can all kind of improve in areas and what those things mean to us. But, recently you spoke about these at the Saskatchewan Top 100 Business Awards Gala, and you also mentioned a Jamaican saying that's rather applicable as well. Yeah.
There is a Jamaican proverb, and forgive me, we lickle but with Talawah. It's very, very easy to say.
That
just rolls off. Yeah, we lickle but with Talawah, and literally it means we're little and humble, but we're Talawah. Talawah is an interesting word. It actually stems from the English word stalwart.
Oh.
And so stalwart has a really strong meaning to it. It talks about it's being strong, unwavering, gritty, if you will, really resolute, unfaltering. And that description of being Talawah or stalwartness is a description that I often think of being in Saskatchewan. Is that there's a lot of relationships. So maybe we're all kind of Jamaican Saskatchewanians.
Yeah, sure.
But the fact is that when you combine the full meaning of it, it means we may be small, but don't underestimate us. And I think as one of the aspects of being from Saskatchewan and being a leader in Saskatchewan, people can be very proud of how they apply that to safety or how they can apply that. We don't have to be like everybody else. We can be different, and accepting the norm is not acceptable.
Right.
We can certainly be different. We can certainly use all that grittiness, resourcefulness, being committed, all those things that are great features, I guess you could say, or great characteristics that we've been very proud of in this province, and apply it in such a way that we can have people work in much safer environments where they are more effective in building their product with less interruption and less chance of having damage done either to a person or equipment, or those kinds of interruptions that really can become a drain on the finances, or even with from a social aspect as well.
Well, that's fantastic. And to be sitting where we are and having this conversation about that, it couldn't be brought together any better. That here we are in this wonderful facility in this small little province of 1 million people, and yet this facility has put us on the map, the world map. That, as you said earlier, Garth Brooks is coming here, the NHL is coming here, the Grey Cup's coming again next year. But people are always commenting on what a jewel this is, and here it is in this small little province.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The element about Talawah, there's a work on the inside that we really need to consider with that. And it's not just learning how to walk tall and being proud of it. It's really learning how to tall walk. I mean, there is a way that we can carry ourselves, be bold about what we're doing. This facility was built with the hands of many people from Saskatchewan. Fortunately, they had a very good safety record in building this, and it just demonstrates that we can build some incredible things without putting undue risk on person or treasure in order to get that done.
So within all of that, we've talked about some pretty interesting things here: grit, resourcefulness, being stalwart and sturdy and walking tall, that sort of thing. How do we contextualize all that within the SCSA and what's gone on in the last year with the SCSA?
Sure. Well, a couple of things. We are in very interesting times in terms of some of the economic challenges that a lot of our member companies have faced. We've had a bit of effect in our economy, and so there's been pressures that have occurred, and at the same time we've had a bit of a flatlining with respect to injury rates. We've been really fortunate up to now to continuously see decreases in the number of injuries. But again, we've flatlined, and in some areas maybe even crept up a bit. Now's the time to really get gritty. And so there's a lot of work for us to do, and this adjustment of the economy also gives us an opportunity to become more effective and more efficient with the tools that we have, and being safer. So I think over the last year, 3 things come to mind: a lot of the partnerships, innovation, and a lot of planning. And like any great project, you need to be able to have all 3 of those. This particular project here had many partners that were involved. No one company, no one group of people that built it on their own. There's some great innovative ideas where they brought ideas from a lot of different places, combined them to create something really fantastic. And there was a lot of planning that happened along the way to make this thing what it is. And so we've worked through a number of, and we're working through a number of partnerships with, whether it be with White Rabbit VR to bring tools that can make be what we're doing more effective at a very effective cost rate. So we're not using inefficient means to deliver a service. Work with Canadian Centre for Occupational Health and other groups to bring tools like our mobile app, our OHS mobile app, and some other tools that we like to bring down the road, and bring in features that all of our member companies can actually leverage to do their business better, and do it at a more cost-effective pace. So it's a big part of bringing innovative tools and not being scared to kind of try some new ideas.
So, Collin, you were telling us about a lot of the innovation and accessibility things that you guys have been working on over the last little while with the SCSA. But as we're moving forward, looking outward, what's on the horizon?
Well, we're really excited about expanding some of the mobile tools that we have. We do have that OHS app that has had great success with it. It is very, very popular. And we're going to continue to expand not just the topics in it, but some of the features in it. Emergency location features in there. There's going to be push notifications out there so that, if an event happens, people are a little more aware about their circumstances around it. We are going to be piloting some automated company data analytics, so we can take not just information that most people get about their history of their injury records, but also integrate such things as how their audits and how their training all integrate and see are there patterns that a company can look at and make some decisions on where they need to go next in terms of safety and how to prioritize those things. So we're going to be doing some pieces on that, and we'll be testing some tools to support our certificate of recognition program. And so for a lot of companies, that's a priority to continuously improve. So we're bringing some tools in and testing some tools that can help those companies continue to do that. And so it's very much a journey for people that we're really excited to work with our members who many have asked for some additional tools to continuously improve, and so we'd like to do that. We'll also, we're going to be working on the ability to make our services more accessible. And in terms of remote workers across the province, and we always talk about northern Saskatchewan. Most of us work in the south half of the province, but we have construction that happens all over the place, and so being able to support those business communities is going to be really critical to the future success of the organization, and this might mean remote connection to our classrooms, or working with some other post-secondary partners to be sure that we can get as much delivery in those areas. Perhaps even working with things like webinars and other tools that people can connect with in a very mobile basis and get good information to help them make good decisions. So a couple of examples in working with partners is working with Sask Polytechnic. We've in this last year we announced an articulation agreement between their occupational health and safety program and our National Construction Safety Officer program, and the whole intent is to give opportunities for people to continue to develop and also give people opportunities who have taken formal education to connect more actively with the construction industry. So we're excited about doing that, working with our trade partners on that, and again, it's really about getting relevant safety content in all levels of an organization. The last area that I'll refer to is with respect to helping develop leaders. So we will be having a leadership seminar in the spring of 2020, but we'll also be working with some of our partners to deliver content at leadership targeted training programs. So whether that be leadership skills or within degrees, we're going to continue to work with our partners to try to get more content, just so as business leaders come into the field that they're more aware and they integrate that thinking in terms of their planning and how they apply certain principles to their business planning and execution.
Well, that's very interesting, and I'm very excited about when we get together again to talk about where we've grown to from now. That a lot of innovation, whether that could be those technology tools to make it easier for people to learn and gain access to that information to either start their safety journey or continue them through it with ease so that they're getting safer. But all of these things is just absolutely fascinating, and I'm very interested to see how much progress you can make as far as making Saskatchewan the safest construction environment in the country.
Well, Well, thank you. You know, it's always exciting to work with you, Kevin, and really appreciate you, the Rawlco group of companies, and in supporting our messaging, and even having conversation like this and making this relevant to people who work in our industry, but also people who buy from the industry, and that whether that be somebody hiring somebody to come and renovate their home, or someone who's formally doing procurement work for a large corporation. It's at those messages we need to continuously have out in front, and really appreciate working with you and having you support us in that area.
Well, fantastic. I look forward to getting together again with you real soon.
We'll do that.
All right.
Okay, thanks.